Welcome to the MEF2C cast, a podcast dedicated to educating, supporting, and building community around MEF2C haploinsufficiency syndrome.
The MEF2 cast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. Views expressed are those of the hosts and guests and not necessarily of the podcast or its sponsors. This is not medical advice. Consult a healthcare professional for medical concerns.
Alrighty, hi everybody. Welcome to the MEF2C cast. We are here today with our guests, Camila and Jedidiah Seaman, who are parents to a 1-year-old girl named Margo with MCHS. How are you guys today?
Good.
Can you guys just start by telling me a little bit about yourselves, about your family, and just whatever you'd like to share?
Yeah,
You want to go first?
sure. So, I'm Camila. We live in Georgia. We have 2 daughters. Our oldest is 4, and then we have Margo, who just turned 1 2 months ago in April. And yeah, I am a work from home mom, and I take care of my littles. And
Yeah, I'm Jedidiah, so I work kind of like program management, inventory management. I have a bachelor's degree in biology. I originally wanted to be a marine biologist. Still working on that goal one of these days. But pretty much just kind of, trying to make money to support the family, be there for the girls, and just living the life.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a degree in zoo science that I'm not really using, so I can totally understand how that goes. So, can you kind of just tell our listeners about Margot's story and kind of, how you guys sort of arrived at her diagnosis?
well, to be honest, it hasn't even been 2 months since we got this diagnosis. It's very, very recent. So Margo started showing some okay, well, I guess I should start from the beginning. She had a very normal delivery. I had some complications, so from the very beginning, there was nothing, like, no red flags. Newborn screenings were perfectly normal. And then the only thing that we noticed was that she was a very sleepy baby, which was great for a while. She sleeps well to this day. Still sleeps great. And then probably 4 or 5 months is when we started
Yeah.
noticing that she was still sleeping like a newborn. So her wake windows were non-existent. So we never really had a chance to work on tummy time or anything like that. So, of course, her head control was not there, her strength was not there. She just slept a lot. And so we brought that up to the pediatrician, and he wasn't really concerned, I don't think, the first time we brought
Yeah.
it up.
He kinda talked about, like, kinda typical, every baby has their own milestones, like, this is kind of the average, but doesn't necessarily mean anything, and he was just like, "But we'll keep an eye on it,
Yeah.
if it continues like this for another couple months, then maybe we'll look into it."
Yeah. And, I mean, to be honest too, like, we have our oldest, Roma, she was the complete opposite. So we saw a difference. We immediately noticed that. Roma was very awake from the get-go, a very awake newborn, meeting all her milestones and everything. So anyway, so with Margo, we tried not to overthink it and just kept going. And then 6-month appointment is when we were like, okay, like, something else is going on here. And I think deep down in my heart of hearts, I also knew that there was something else going on. Um, but we just kept getting dismissed, I guess, from our pediatrician. Every concern that I had that he brought up too, it was just getting kind of dismissed. So anyway, 6 months is when we finally realized that we needed to do something else, and we got our PT referral, and we started with PT at 7.5 months,
Yeah.
and then we really just started with PT OT. That was, like, our first thing that we did. Then let's see, what else did we do? We
So
went to
I was gonna say, yeah, during that time, the doctor had pointed out something about her eyes at one point, kind of talking about tracking, that she wasn't tracking that well,
Yes.
which we thought was kinda strange because we felt like she was tracking really well. But he just mentioned, I don't even remember what he
He
said.
definitely wasn't.
Yeah. I don't remember exactly how he explained it, but he said there was just something about her eyes where it's like she was looking at you, but she wasn't seeing you in a sense. So we kind of brought that up to actually the PT at one day, and they mentioned about how, oh, maybe she has a vision issue, and that's why she's got these delays. Because they talked about how they worked with a kid one time who had vision issues. When it got checked out, turns out the kid was like almost blind. They got that corrected, and then like within 2 weeks, he was hitting all of his milestones again. So
Yeah.
they're like, you should go see an optometrist. So we were gonna do that, and then we brought it up to our pediatrician, and he's like, "Oh, no, I'm gonna refer you to an ophthalmologist." So we ended up actually going to the ophthalmologist, and the ophthalmologist you went to that
Yeah.
appointment.
Um, so it wasn't the best experience, I will say, because he said that the structure of the eye was normal. Everything like the retina, the nerves, everything was normal, and I guess her vision was fine. But he noticed nystagmus, so that's shaking of the eye. It's kind of you can't really see it to the naked eye. Like we couldn't see it, but
Mhm.
I guess so he was able to see some shaking, and so that's called nystagmus. And he was like, "There's something wrong in the brain. You need to get an MRI. I'm gonna refer you to get an MRI." So that was the first, I guess, thing that kind of
Was like, "Hey, something is definitely not right here."
yeah. And then I spiraled from there.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, we got that MRI basically to check the eye. And then the brain. That came back normal. And then our next step from that was the neurologist. And the neurologist we did 3 genetic testing with him that he referred us to. The first one came back negative, so normal. Second one came back negative as well, so normal. And then the third one was, I want to remember the name, macro, right? No, exome, maybe.
Yeah.
And that one came back showing MFTC hypoinsufficiency syndrome.
Mm.
Gotcha.
But we didn't get this until, again,
Yep.
probably like a month after, so 13 months old.
Yeah, because during the same time that they took, like, a swab to do the genetic testing, she also did a EEG, and the results for the EEG showed the only abnormalities was it showed some spikes that, as they described it, was basically hinting that there could be a possibility of seizures. It wasn't that she was having seizures or she showed that she had signs of seizures, but just that there was the potential for it, basically. And that was actually when the neurologist ended up prescribing, Keppra for her, so she's on Keppra as basically a preventative to keep that, and we've never the entire time, we never saw her show any signs of that, and to this day, we still don't know. He said that it could be, one of the kinda not like an absent seizure necessarily, but kinda similar to where it was just like, she isn't, like, maybe necessarily responding or something, and that's her having a seizure, but we're like, "Well, I don't know, it was kind of hard for us to be able to really tell any difference because she was at the time, she was still at the point where, she was still just kind of learning how to pick up on things and see things around her, so it was like, okay, is she fixated on something just because it's interesting to her, or is it because she's, having that kind of activity?
Yeah.
Yeah, and
It's
there
been yeah, sorry.
go ahead, sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say, it's been from the beginning of the year, really, that we started really trying to
Mm,
figure out what was wrong, and it wasn't until May that we finally got an answer for her official diagnosis
yeah.
and everything, so
Every test we're
took about 5
doing,
months.
like the neurologist and the pediatrician, it was all kept bringing up symptoms, but never like the reason for it. And our neurologist, which I will say our neurologist was awesome because he's like, there's something here and I know we're gonna find it. I just gotta figure out how to test for it. And so that's why he kept pushing for, everything. I mean, he was even telling me, he's like, if we need to, we'll do another MRI, we'll do like different other kinds of tests that will show us different things of the brain. He's like, because there's something there. I just don't know what, and we need to find it. I'm not satisfying until I find what's going on. So
Yeah, it's great to have a doctor like that in your corner. The seizure thing is something we worry excuse me, something that we worry about a lot too, just because, like, he's made some developments in the last few months really with tracking and, like, you can tell what he's paying attention to a lot more now, but, like, he tends to fixate on things, and it's like, how would I know whether that's a seizure or whether
That's
that
yeah,
a seizure or not.
yeah, uh-huh. So, I can see that's something that is I think a common thing among parents to worry about, and, like,
Yeah.
the family that we know, their daughter's a little bit older than Leo. I think she just turned 3, and she just had a seizure for the first time not too long ago, so it's unfortunately something you do have to keep an eye out for.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Our neurologist asked us if we had seen any, like, changes after since taking Keppra, and
Mhm,
honestly, I I don't even know, I don't think so. She's still the same chill little girl. I will say her personality is very much she's just chill.
mhm,
She is a I don't even know how to I
yeah.
think she takes after her after Jed, but, she's very chill. She's just a sweet little girl,
Yeah, I
but
mean, we can lay her down on a blanket on
she
the
never
ground, and she'll
complains.
just hang out there, like, we could walk off and completely forget about her, and she would
She's fine.
never even say anything. We wouldn't even realize it type deal.
Yeah, so when you guys got the diagnosis, kind of how well, I guess, it's been relatively recently, so how did you process it? How are you still processing it? What is that like?
So I think for me, so actually listening to like other episodes, I think I relate to you a lot. With my kind of biology background, also, I was very much of like, I want to look into the nitty gritty of figure out why is this happening. So like immediately, like I took the paperwork that they send. I was looking up the chromosome, like I was looking up the variation. I was like looking into all these like little things and stuff, and because I was very much like, I want to know like what's happening here because I kind of have a little bit of understanding of the genetics from the courses that I took in college and stuff. So I'm like, I understand a little bit of this. I want to look into this, and that's been kind of my way of processing, I guess, is just like looking at what are the actual, I guess you could say, physical aspects of it, like what's actually happening, what's going on, and other than that, I mean, I feel like regardless of this or anything, I'm like, it hasn't changed how she acts and who she is, so it's like I just kind of still play it like day by day.
Yeah. It's a little bit harder for me. I think I am still trying to and I'm sorry, I'm already getting emotional about it.
You're okay.
It's just hard. I think for a while, I always blame myself for anything that was going I don't wanna say wrong because I don't wanna say that it was going wrong, but that wasn't that she was not on track. And honestly, for a while too, because I had a very difficult postpartum experience with her, I couldn't hold her for 24 hours after she was born, and so I in my head, I was like, "Oh, that's my fault because I couldn't hold her." Or after that, saying that she was a very sleepy baby, I honestly took advantage of that because I feel
Mm,
like to heal emotionally, I needed to just hold my baby. And so, in a way, I felt so selfish that I could have, done more to get those wake windows and work on tummy time or get her up to date. And I don't know. So I know now with this diagnosis that it was not my fault or anything I could have prevented, but it's still hard for me to accept. And I still kind of do blame myself for a lot of it, even though I know. You can tell me all the things and I know it's not my fault.
mm.
But I'm still, yeah, it's still hard for me. I'm still trying to process. I think we have told our families, and to this day, just talking about it, I do get choked up. And so, yeah, still work in progress. Progress.
Do you if you don't remember offhand, it's okay. Do you know what variation she actually has?
So she has a deletion.
Gotcha.
It's kind of like it's a non I know it's a nonsense deletion. From the paperwork, it's like there's like 3 nucleotides that were
Mhm.
deleted out that basically just like said, "Alright, we're done with making the protein. It's not
Right.
happening."
Gotcha. Yeah. I'm sorry, I had a train of thought and I completely lost it.
No worries.
So how did you guys it sounded like you were already had her in therapy and all the right things to begin with. So did the diagnosis change anything as far as sort of how your treatment plan for her? Or was it more of just like, all right, we've got a name for this now and we just keep moving?
That was pretty much it.
Yeah.
Just have a name for it. It doesn't change how we treat her. I will say we were working with two PTs at the time, and one of them, she actually has a lot of experience working with kids that have some sort of genetic disorder. So she had worked with kids with Angelman's and I believe maybe Rhett's. I might be,
I think
I be,
so. I think she yeah, I think
Angelman's
so.
for sure. I don't know about Rhett, but I want to say that she has. And so she had had some exposure to that.
Mhm,
Whereas our other PT, Lauren, she worked a lot with kids with Down syndrome. So of course, Margo has hypotonia.
mhm.
And of course, most kids with Down syndrome also have that. So I guess both of them were kind of experienced in that area. But yeah, I don't think it changed in any way the care that they were giving her and
Mhm.
the treatment plan or anything like that. I will say it's taken a minute for Margot to get to where she is. I want to say so. When we started out PT, she wasn't holding her head up or anything like that. She was a newborn, and she at that point was 7.5, almost 8 months old. Um, but then within a month, she was able to start holding her head up. She started getting some of that neck control. And now it's been 6 months total, I guess,
Mhm.
of PT, and she's almost there. She's almost sitting unsupported. They're working a lot on her trunk. so that she can start potentially, maybe, hopefully crawling.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, so within the last 6 months, we've seen a lot of progress, and even with OT too, I think.
Yeah, I think it's just like she was saying, it's kind of just continuing with what we're doing. I think the only major changes is just realizing that there's going to be some other doctor's appointments that we're going to need to. Like we're working on getting set up to go to a cardiologist, just because so that we can, check out her heart, make sure, that's all good.
Yeah, check the
Um,
box.
you possibly doing like another EEG, maybe one that's a little bit more extensive so that we can kind of look at like those spikes that they're seeing and see, okay, is this, how common is this? If there's any triggers or anything like that.
Yeah.
And, I guess some of the other kind of specialties that, we're going to have to see probably end up going back to the ophthalmologist eventually.
I do know that we need speech for sure. They're kind of holding off on that until she's 18 months old, I think. I know that we have that coming
Yeah.
up.
But yeah, I think for the most part, it's our big focus, like from the beginning, because it's kind of what started off everything was just kind of focus on the like the PT and the OT. Because I mean, for as of right now, that kind of seems to be like the only really, I guess, struggle that she's
Showing.
yeah, that she's showing that she's faced, and I think as that develops, that'll
Turn
probably
into
be
more.
what leads to other things, once she
Mhm.
gets more control of, the mouth and things like that, then, obviously, we're gonna have to tackle speech and stuff, but as of right now, it's not like we're really expecting her to be talking too much anyways.
Right, yeah. That, understanding, like, how intertwined all the different systems are has been really interesting through this experience because, like, you don't think about the way your vision impacts your physical development, that might impact your speech development, all this other stuff, but, like, I know I talked to your therapist, and they said that the visual tracking was huge for her, that once she started working on that
All of it.
visual tracking stuff, everything else fell in line, and that's something that I had never really considered as being interrelated. So and, it sounds like you got her in really early, which is great advice. It's unfortunately, like, advice that can't be used because anybody that listening to this has got their genetic diagnosis already, and
Yeah.
there's nothing they could have done. You know what I mean? They either did or they didn't. But it's really fortunate that you guys were paying attention so well and were able to get her. So you guys talked about feeling like maybe some of your concerns weren't being taken seriously by your doctor. Kind of, did you have to advocate for it? Did you have to push for things? Did you have to change doctors? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So honestly, we started bringing things up to our first pediatrician when she was about 3 months old. So that's the first time we started noticing she's sleeping a lot. We weren't super concerned, but we did bring it up. He was like, "It's fine. Don't worry about it." Okay. We also noticed, with speaking of vision, that her eyes were going into opposite directions. And I know that that's common for newborns, but at 3 months, you're expecting the babies to kind of start focusing better. She wasn't doing that yet. We did also bring that up. And then so 3 and then 6 months again, or 5? I think it was
I
3
think
6 months.
yeah.
We were like, "Okay, we need to do something." And, when we told him that, like, she couldn't, sit up, or, like, her neck and all the things, he was like, "Well, how about you try, like, giving her, like, a cup of water, like, see what she will do with that." And I was like, "We're like, what do you mean? Like, she can't sit up, like,
Mhm.
she can't hold any, like,
She can't even hold her head up. Why are we gonna try and
why is this
give
even
her
a
something to
suggestion?" Like, it
Yeah.
was
Right,
so
yeah.
random. And that was the last straw for me. I was just like, "We're switching pediatricians." Um, the one thing this pediatrician did that was good was giving us that PT referral, and
Yeah.
that's how we landed with our care team, and they have helped us so much in figuring out, like, "Okay, well, maybe you should look into this or that." But yeah, I think honestly too, I think it would be kind of hard if you're a first-time parent to notice these things, just
Yeah.
because you don't really know what to expect, right? And every baby develops at a different rate, and that is true. However, I don't know, I just feel like because Margo is our second, we already kind of knew, and I don't know, it was just like it was evident to
Yeah.
us that there was something else, and they just kept dismissing it. So
Yeah, I would say it was one of those things where even if, everything was what the doctor said, and it's like, "Oh, just developing later, whatever." It was still one of those things where there was enough doubt that I was like, "You at least look at this." Like,
yeah,
I'm okay with you telling me, like, "No, Like, you're wrong. Like, she really is just, developing just a little bit slower, but it's all good. Like, I'm like, okay, that's fine, but I just want you to look at it. And it was almost kind of like they weren't really wanting to until it got to a point where they're like, okay, she's already should be sitting up and she's not even holding up her head. Okay, that's an issue. And he was like, I'm gonna refer you to PT, but it's probably not gonna happen for several months still, type thing. And it was just kind of like, he was still just like, "Ah, I'll refer it because
I have
I
to.
have to. I'm supposed to because she's not hitting these milestones." But it wasn't necessarily that he's like, "I'm gonna refer her because I think that she needs this help."
Yeah, because she needs
Mhm.
to be, yeah.
And then, even with the ophthalmologist referral that he gave, he didn't give that until after we already told him that personally were gonna go to optometrist because our therapist had mentioned something, and he was like, "Oh, no, no, we're not gonna do that. Here, I'm gonna refer you to ophthalmologist." So it was almost kind of like
We kind of
he
had
wanted to prove himself as being the one to.
Yeah, we kind of
Yeah.
already had, like, a plan in place, so we were like, "Hey, we're gonna go see the ophthalmologist, and we're gonna start OT," and we pretty much just, like, informed him, "This is what we're gonna do," and that's when he was like, "Oh, maybe you're right, let me put in a referral for that for you," and I was like, "I
Mhm.
already have it in place, like, what do you mean?"
Yeah.
But anyways,
Yeah, I
yeah,
mean, that's fortunately not an experience that specific thing isn't an experience we've had with Leo, but, like, that's definitely something I've encountered with doctors where sometimes you have to be like, "Listen, buddy, this is what we're doing,
Mhm.
yeah,
and whether you're on board or not, this is what's gonna happen," and then a lot of times they're like, "Well, if this is going to happen, you know what I mean, then I'll do this." Like, they don't want to be the one that looks wrong, frankly,
Yeah.
or,
yeah,
stood in the way. Sometimes you do have to take that tact. And then the other thing I would say about this, normally we hit this note a little later in the show, but it comes up fairly often, is like, as an institution, medical professionals, doctors, you should trust them as as a
right,
concept, as a
yeah,
educational, you know what I mean, body. But any one individual doctor is just a guy. You know what I mean? So like, and almost every parent that we've talked to has had the same intuition you've had, that, like, even if they were a first time parent, that just like something isn't right here.
yeah,
So like if you feel like something isn't right, you need to let them know. And if they're not willing to play ball with you, then you need to go somewhere else
yeah,
because
Yeah.
keep asking
they're
for other opinions, yeah,
right. Yes. Just because they have a diploma doesn't mean that they know everything about everything. So
Yeah.
totally.
it's really important to trust your gut on those things. So what let's see here. So how have you, if at all, kind of built your community and support network since getting the diagnosis? Well, throughout all of it, because obviously the care team is huge. A lot of people in the community have really close relationships with their therapists. I know we're relatively close with all of Leo's therapists. So um,
I think
They have been huge for us.
Yeah, I think our biggest community has actually been our care team because like they've been there from the beginning, and then they've been the one that's like helped kind of in a sense advocate for us in the sense of encouraging us to advocate for ourselves. It's like we told them about like our experience with the pediatrician. They're like, you need to go back to that pediatrician and tell them, hey, this is what's going on and this is what we're doing and stuff like that. And so they've been really huge. So like I don't have much family that lives close by, and Camilla's family, they all live out west. So it's been kind of hard for us as far as like, we don't really have much family, but we've had some friends and stuff that have just even though they don't necessarily know what's going on just because we haven't really shared it with a lot of people, but they've all been people that's just like, you know, if we have to go take Margo to an appointment and our oldest has to stay here or, "Hey, can you watch them?" And they've been willing to do that, and so just being able to have those people to kind of
Yeah,
support us, and then, even, again, going back to our care team, we have therapy with Margo pretty much
every
almost every single day of the week, and they've even allowed like Roma to come with us. And Roma, participates and Roma's there kind of thing. And, so that everyone can be involved and kind of be a part of it. They've really become almost like a second family for us.
yeah. They have helped me so much through, like, all my emotions and trying to process and navigate what this gonna as a mom, you worry and over worry and over worry. So they have really helped me and have been such a huge support, especially because even though they don't have kids maybe with the same diagnoses, but they have helped other families and they see this on the daily. It's just been huge. They have also helped us with resources that the state of Georgia has for early intervention. They have kind of pointed us in the right direction for us to go and, look. Yeah, honestly, I will say, obviously, talking about this with my family, I have shared with them what Margo's diagnosis is, but at the risk of sounding like, I mean, don't get me wrong, because they have been huge, but I think our care team has been the biggest support for me personally.
Yeah.
Um,
I was gonna say my family, like I have there's a big age range in my family, and I'm the youngest, so most of my family are much older, and they're kind of at the point where they're dealing with much different things and stuff, and so it's like I told them, but it wasn't necessarily like jump on it like, "Hey, we're coming over. We're gonna, be a part of this." Like they're like, "Okay, hey, let us know if you need anything." Like I sent them the information about it. I'm sure they've looked it up and kind of looked into it a little bit. But again, like the closest one is he lives about almost an hour away, and he has two kids that are the same age as ours. So he's got his own family that he's taking care of a lot, and then all the rest of them are out of state. It's not like there's a lot of, physical help, but, when it comes to need to talk or anything, they're there,
yeah.
but yeah, I was like, it keeps coming back to our care team.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you guys have a ton of respect from me because that physical help is huge. Like my parents live 5 minutes away. Like I actually literally my dad this spring cut a a trail through our property that connects to my street down here, so he can drive his side by side down here. And like the other day, my niece was here and we hiked up to my parents' house, so they're like
But
right there. Haley's family's very close, and
well,
I
that's awesome.
I can't imagine just like not having the people, just the manpower to take care of
Yeah.
Leo.
I
Uh,
will say, like, don't get us wrong, like, we have had help. His parents happened to be here one weekend where we needed to take Margot to do her MRI, I believe, excuse me.
Yeah,
So they watched our oldest, and we have other friends that have very much volunteered and they have helped us so much. But as far as like the day-to-day support that, we don't necessarily have from our family, we get from our care team.
yeah.
mhm.
And honestly, I feel like they care for Margot just as much as they care for us. I feel
Oh,
like
yeah.
they really do advocate for her just as much as we would. And I feel like having that connection has been so important and so big for me personally, and I'm sure for you too. But yeah.
I mean, they're so involved, they came to our oldest birthday party, so,
Yeah.
like, that's how close they are to us.
Yeah. We love them.
Yeah, that's awesome. And there is something nice about, like you said earlier, you have friends who like maybe don't understand the full brunt of it, but they're still willing. Like I have a friend. When you're an adult, you see your friends once every 6 months, maybe. You know what I mean? So like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
we've been best friends since kindergarten, but he doesn't exactly understand what's going on. But he keeps up with Leo on like Facebook and stuff, and he always gives me a hard time because like Leo's a big boy. He's like, "Yeah, I was gonna get him a pair of work boots for his first birthday and a lunch pail and all this other stuff." You know what I mean? And, other people that they might have felt like weird about that because of Leo's physical situation, but it's actually kinda nice to have someone who just treats you like a parent, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, um, are you guys in the MEF2C Facebook group?
Yes, I
Okay.
am.
I think I am. I think, like, right after I went searching for some resources, I think I found it, I think I joined it, but I'm not,
Uh,
like, really super active on social media, I think I
I got
joined it and, like, that was kinda, like, the last of it.
Yeah.
And I
Well,
will say too is that I actually found the day that we got Margo's diagnoses, I immediately went on Facebook and looked up like a meth to see something,
Mm.
mhm,
right? And I found the foundation, I think maybe two more groups or something like that. And the ironic part was that that was the day that I guess in Colorado,
And a couple
right,
states, I think, actually.
they had set or what was it?
They, like, established it as, like, a day of awareness for
Meth to
yeah.
see.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was it was May 14th because
Yeah,
it's
like, that was
it,
that was the day that the doctor actually sent the
Oh, yeah.
paperwork saying, "Hey, here is the diagnosis." We're like, "Oh, okay," and so, yeah, we go and look, and all of a sudden, it's, like, blue across the board and all these things are like, "Whoa, this is, like, a huge thing." It's like, "Oh, no, we actually happened to just get on right on the day that it, was significant."
yeah. Yeah, the Facebook group is awesome. It sounds like neither of you are very active on social media, but you should
Yeah.
definitely
It's like, I've
just
been
jump on
meaning
every once in a while to look at that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been meaning to jump into it and kinda look at it. I've had my hands tied with a lot of stuff with work and some other things, so it's like I
Yeah.
haven't really had a chance to really dive into it, but
Mhm.
I want to.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a lot of information about, like, there's a Cornell study going on right now for I think that's through Rare Bird and the UK Foundation. I think the German Foundation might be involved, and then the US Foundation has their stuff going on in Boston, and then there's the Family Foundation stuff, so, that's a great place just for you guys and just for anybody listening, that's a great place to find all that
Yeah.
information.
Well, and I feel like now I personally feel like I'm at a point where I can start looking and diving more into what more resources can we find for Margot for her specific condition and like looking more into like the Facebook group and stuff like that. Honestly, the last 2 months for me have been just trying to digest and process this diagnosis and I couldn't, yeah. So I feel
No,
like
I
now I'm at
understand.
a better place where I can finally
Mhm.
dive in and yeah.
Right. Yeah, so what does daily life kind of look like now for Margo?
So okay, well so Margot has either PT or OT every day for an hour. And
That's pretty much the first thing she does. We get her up and we're heading to there, and she's usually waking up around 7:30, 7 to 8 o'clock, somewhere around there.
yeah. I will say I know that you guys struggle a lot, and not just you guys, but like most parents with sleep. And
Mhm.
I don't know if I don't want to jinx it. I don't know if it's something that's coming later down the road. I don't know. But so far, she has been a great sleeper. She sleeps through the night. And so she will wake up at any time between 7 or 8. She does have her regular, I don't want to say regular, but like, like normal kids, they will have their regressions, sleep regressions. She has experienced those. Or whenever she's teething, like, some nights are rougher than others. But for the most part, she's a great sleeper, so she'll wake up and then either at 9 or 9:30 we have PT or OT. And then after that, she is so tired. So she will nap always after a session, and her naps are usually like 2 hours long. And then honestly, like from then it's just being home. She's still eating or drinking from a bottle. She's not eating yet solids. We have tried, but she's not sitting up yet, so I just feel like it's not conducive to eating any solids yet. Um and yeah, just at home, we just try and do our own things. So, like, we try and interact with her with little toys, or we work on sitting. And big sister also keeps us busy. So we're either going to a park or,
Mm.
you know, uh, at the beginning of the year, we were going to school back and forth. So, um, yeah, but again, like Margot is not demanding in any way. So she's just happy to hang out, really. She loves cuddles. I love that she loves that because
Yeah.
I feel like our oldest never was never really a cuddly baby. She was just super active. And yeah, and then, bedtime is sometime around 7:30, but yeah, we're now she still naps twice a day just because she's so tired from her therapies, but yeah, that's pretty much her routine.
Nice. Yeah. What kinds of things are you guys working on in therapy right now?
Right now, so the main thing that they're working on, like Camilla says, they're working on building up her trunk, like strength, be able to like hold her entire body up. So working on like sitting, and they do a lot of quadrupeds, so they'll get her kind of on her hands and knees and kind of support her and just get her kind of used to that. And she's been progressing with that a lot, and that's usually as far as like physical therapy. They're working on that.
But, like, also our therapist, Casey, she has tried different techniques. So
Mhm.
the one that she tried here recently was a tense, um, stimulation.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Lines.
it's like an
But
electrical stimulation.
Electrostimulation, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and she was like, "This is not in any way, like this is just to kinda, like, see if her muscles wake up and there's, like, a connection between, like, the brain and the muscle." And honestly, like, the first time she did it, it was a huge, huge,
Yeah.
huge change. Like Margot was in quadruped and she was actually holding herself unsupported for more than 30 seconds, and she had never ever done that before until that point. So they're doing a lot of that in PT. And then also Casey has like a different, so it's called DMI.
Mhm.
Don't ask me what it stands for. I can't remember.
It's
But
dynamic movement something.
yes,
Um,
Yeah.
yes, and that has also been big for Margot. Just like a different way of treating her,
mhm.
a different approach, I guess. And so those 2 things have been super
Yeah.
beneficial for Margot in her physical therapy.
And then occupational therapy, it's mostly working with her hands, just kind of doing hand coordination. So they have like little toys where she has to reach out and try and grab it. I'm working on her crossing her midline with her hands. We've kind of just recently gotten to like cause and effect toys. So, teaching her, hey, you move your hand and do this on a toy, it's gonna affect this, and like pushing down, turning things, pulling on things. And then also she started kind of working on as far as like stimulation around the mouth because
She's grinding a lot.
yeah, Margo grinds a lot because
Mhm.
she's been teething a lot, and also we think it might just be kind of a form of stimulation for her. But she's also very adverse to having anything put close to her mouth or anything because she did get sick several months back and she had to take an antibiotic, and I think she just hated the antibiotic, and so from then on she was like, I don't want anything in my mouth. And so we've been working on getting her used to having things placed. So they have like a little vibrating toy that she'll like run on her cheeks and against her jaw, and Margot will actually even let her like kind of put it in her mouth and kind of chew on it a little bit. So that's the big thing is that with occupational therapy is working the hands and then kind of getting the mouth used to
And I will say
stuff.
Margot's not reaching for things yet or holding anything. We have to kind of like lead her hands and move her hands to where she'll actually, do anything, like either grab something, but she's not necessarily like doing it on her own. So our OT is working on that a lot.
Mhm.
But honestly, the biggest change I will say we have seen with OT was her vision. Just her being able to track, it's improved so much in the last 6 months. And it hasn't even been 6 months yet with OT, but even from that very first session, I saw such a big change. I remember going to the mall one time just because they have a playground there and it was indoors and we were taking our oldest. And it was so interesting to see Margot, and this was before we started OT. It was almost like she was there, but she wasn't. Like, she would not interact in any way. Like, she was not interested in her environment. She was not looking around. She wasn't really doing anything. And she was probably 7 months at
Yeah.
that point. And then a month later, we started OT, and it was like a light switch. Something happened, and like now that she's able to track better, it's like you can definitely see more of her personality, and you can see how when she's interested in things, and like you can kind of tell like, oh, maybe you want this, or and like whenever she sees us coming into her room, she'll get excited and like she'll start kicking her feet. So but all of that didn't happen before, and it was really OT that kind of like, I think something connected in her little brain that made it to where she's at right now, and it was really big. I didn't understand really what OT was, and now I'm so grateful that we
Mhm.
started it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I still don't completely understand what OT is,
yeah,
but it's great.
yeah,
Um, there's something called, CVI, which stands for, I believe, cerebral vision impairment that we learned about at the US Foundation meetup in Ohio a few weeks ago. It's not like just because she has MEF2C necessarily means that she has it, but it might be something to look into too. It has to do with, like, sort of neurologically how they
mhm,
process information, and that might things like her hand stuff too, like, that might be a matter of just motor planning more so than, like, her actual physical skill. I don't know exactly how to explain that,
Yeah.
yeah,
but, like, we still have to hand over hands, Leo, with a lot of things. He can do things, like, for example, he likes the wheels on the bus. He can do the hand movements if you're holding his hands, but he can't do
mhm,
it by
Yeah.
himself.
yes,
So, a lot of times it's just, like, they know what they're supposed to be doing, and it's being able to get their body to
Yeah.
cooperate.
absolutely, yeah.
And go go ahead, sorry.
No, sorry. I was just gonna say Tyler has our OT has mentioned she has taught us so much too. But going back to OT, how we can help Margot better learn things because she needs regulation before she learns. And I keep forgetting the word that Tyler uses.
So she is, it's like vestibular
Mhm.
regulation.
So she needs the contact. She needs that's why she's a cuddler,
Yeah.
because
Deep
that's how
pressure.
she regulates. We have learned that with OT, and then after she gets that need met, she's able to then go and learn.
Mhm.
So that has been interesting to learn with her.
Yeah, one of the things that our OT does, like if she's in the middle of a session and Margot seems to kind of just like not really be like done with it, not really feeling it or whatever, just like not doing any movements, they have like a little basket swing and they'll put her in a basket swing and kind of swing her and spin her, very softly, and it calms her down a lot. And usually she'll be able to finish out the session after doing
Yeah.
that. And that's
Mhm.
what our OT was saying is like it goes back to that vestibular need is that she needs to be able to know where she is in space, and
Mhm.
kind of that spinning, that swing kind of helps her establish that.
Yeah, that's what that from what I understand, and for our listeners, I've also spoken to Margot's care team.
Mhm.
We did an interview with them. It's gonna come out after this one, so I keep referencing this interview that might be confusing
That hasn't
because it
happened
hasn't
yet.
come out yet. But that's what they explained to me with that electrostim that it does as well is helps her recognize that actual part of her body that she needs to be using. And my friend Andrew, who's an adult with MCHS, we did a episode with his mom.
Mhm.
They said that once he like if there's a cup on the table and he can't pick it up, once he figured out and Susan figured out to be like, Andrew, use your bicep, flex your bicep and pick up the cup. He's like, okay, now I got it. So just that proprioceptive input
Mhm.
Yeah.
seems to be really valuable. And then talking about like sort of that vestibular sensory input. I don't know if you guys know who Temple Grandin is.
Mm-mm.
She's an autistic woman. She's also I can see by Jedidiah's face that he probably has heard that name before.
It sounds really
Did you
familiar.
mention her before in one of the episodes?
I probably did. She's a very
Really?
famous animal scientist. And she actually so I don't know if you guys are familiar with like cattle operations. Like when there's something called like a squeeze chute where they like have a cattle come in and it clamps down on them so that they can like do medical exams or give injections or whatever, but it keeps the cow calm and squeezes them while they're doing things to it. Well, she invented that actually originally for herself because she's autistic and she needed that deep pressure
Yep.
with but she didn't like to touch people. So she needed a way to get the sensation of a hug without being
A
touched.
person
So
did.
I just thought that was an interesting,
Yeah.
parallel between
Interesting.
the 2
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
But yeah, you should check her out 'cause she's a really interesting person that has, and obviously autism and MCHS don't overlap completely, but there is a lot of
Mhm.
similarities. So how you said she's before she just kind of didn't really interact with her environment. How is she socially now with other kids, with her sister?
So she, because the fact obviously she's not moving around, there's like only so much interaction she can do. But like when her older sister's like playing in the room or doing something, like she's watching
She
her.
tracks her.
Yeah, she tracks all of us. Her tracking is so good to the point now we can blow bubbles and she will watch the bubbles. I mean, that's a huge thing. But yeah, like with her sister, like she'll watch it when her sister, she loves high pitched noises. So when her sister makes a high pitched noise, she'll start
Laughing.
making a noise that we're like, okay, you got to be laughing.
Yeah.
And like, you can tell she gets excited. Like Camilla was saying, when we walk into a room and she sees us or she hears us, her feet start kicking. She, will kind of start squirming around. And so it's like she's very aware of the things that are going on around her. We joke like we have a dog and he's a very needy dog and he hates being like separated from us. So like I'll take him out or I'll put him out on his lead to go to the bathroom and stuff. When he's ready to come in, he'll kind of whimper and start like kind of yipping and stuff. And she loves it. She'll start laughing at that. She thinks it's like the funniest thing ever. So like we can tell she definitely responds to things that are going on around her, both sound and sight.
It's still different though, the way she interacts, comparing her to Roma. Like if you look at a 1-year-old and you put like you're looking them straight in the face, you smile, they'll smile at you, or they'll interact in some way. Margaret doesn't do that yet. So she does smile, she does laugh, but it's not always. She's still trying to trying to
Yeah.
get the hang of
I
it.
mean, she'll even have moments where, like, she'll be ticklish and, like, I can play with her and tickle her and she'll be laughing. And there's times that I'll do it and she's just, like, looking at me
Yeah.
like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
So it's like, it definitely I think it really plays on to the fact that, like, she's still really figuring out her body and, like, kind of where it is in space and stuff, and so sometimes when she's just, like, really keyed in, she's really able to make that connection, but then sometimes, she's, doing whatever, and so it's like it doesn't really make as much of a connection. I can play with her, do things, and sometimes she reacts to it, and sometimes she's just like just lets me do whatever. Like I know I'll pick her up and like I'll kind of gently toss her as every dad does with their kid. And she enjoys that, and there's times when she'll laugh at that, and there's times when she's just like, okay, yeah, this is cool. It's almost like as if I wasn't doing anything at all.
I will also say that, her sensory, I think plays a big role into that. Just because, like, even like look when we're in therapy in OT, there'll be times when Tyler is doing something with her hands, trying to get her to do something with her hands, but she's not looking, so she's avoidant. Or sometimes she'll look, but she doesn't want to touch. So I feel like it's the same way whenever we're trying to interact with her. Sometimes it's not like we can ask for all of her senses to be involved because she still has that avoidance. Um, and so we're also trying to learn, what's going on, how do we
Yeah.
better approach this, but I have noticed that she's very much it's one or the other, or sometimes two, but
Hmm.
she's still trying to figure it out. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and a lot of those things, like, the not looking, it could be, and again, it's not necessarily any one of these things. Like, Leo will look at things through the side of his eyes a lot, or through the bottoms of his eyes a lot, and that's we're looking into that CVI diagnosis right now, but that could be potentially due to that,
Interesting.
or
She
it
I was like,
She
she
also
does do
does do a
that.
side eye a lot.
yeah, and he loves, which this could also just be a sensory thing, but he loves to look at things upside down, like, he'll turn around facing away from the TV and lean back
Oh,
and
that's
watch
so
it
funny.
upside down, or he'll hold his iPad upside down. Had another thing, and I lost my train of thought again. The other thing is, it might just be, so again, the apraxia thing, just them not being able to
Mhm.
control, you know what I mean? Like, she might just not be able to not look over there. But it seems like those things have really improved with time, and you talked about the cause and effect toys.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's something that we're still working on that, but, like, he used to have toys that he, like, figured out, like, if I bang my hands on this thing, eventually it'll make some noise. But once he figured out what buttons were, then he started isolating fingers a lot more, and then that sort of led to a lot of other stuff, and then he started focusing on individual buttons and trying to figure out what they do. So
Mhm.
that was the thing that kind of opened up a lot of other things for us.
Yeah.
Oh, that
But you talked about it a little bit there, but so how does she communicate? You guys just know the sounds and the looks and the motions that she makes, or
Yeah, we have kind of learned.
I was
Mhm.
gonna say, we know because, from the beginning, because she's so chill, we know when she's crying, she obviously needs something,
Yeah.
and, I mean, 9 times out of 10, it's either she's hungry or she needs her diaper changed. Literally, that is, like, the only thing I think she's ever complained about. Like, I don't think she's ever even complained about something that we think is like, "Oh, she's uncomfortable," or I mean, she'll roll herself over to where she's, like, stuck against something, and she's just like, "This is my life now." I know when she was younger, before I think it was, like, right after we started doing, like, PT, way before we even got this diagnosis and stuff, I kinda set her down on the couch and, like, kinda set her sitting up on a couch cushion, and I was there, like, in the living room, but I had to, like, pick up something else, and I turned my back to pick up something, and then I looked back, and she had flopped over and basically just, like, laying down, like, basically just flopped over, never complained or anything. I was like, "Oh, I'm sorry. Here, let me pick you up," and it was just like the look in her face was like, "Well, this is just my life now."
Mm,
But I would say one thing is, like, when we get close, I think you can tell, like, by her movement, she's ready to be picked up, or she thinks you're gonna pick her up because she comes and she kind of already kind
She
of
kind of arches
yeah,
her
she
back.
arches up, she lifts her hands up so you can, like, grab underneath her and everything. And then, like, when we come in the morning after she's woken up, like, the moment she hears us, if she's laying on her belly, she'll flip over and she'll be looking at us and watching us. So
Yeah.
it's like, I think when I've come to learn personally that when she's really, like, connecting, like, vision-wise, like, staring at you or watching you, it's like she's wanting to interact with you.
Mhm.
And so that's when I'm like, I try and do it because there's been times I've walked in too. She'll kind of look and then she goes back to looking at something else or doing whatever. So I'm like, all right, she's obviously just chill, hanging out where she's at. You know, not going to really worry about it. But
Mhm.
I think that's kind of the biggest thing when it comes to her toys and stuff. She's getting to the point where she is moving her hands towards the toys a little bit, but obviously still working on being able to really reach and everything. So it's hard to really kind of figure out if there's anything she necessarily wants to interact with.
Mhm.
I think it's mostly just like her cues and her facial expression or her whole full body language when it comes to like people and how she wants to interact with us.
Does she have any toys that she's, like, obsessed with? Because, like, every every other family we've met, there's been especially the ones with, like, older parents, they're like, "Oh, yeah, we had that toy." Like, when we went to Boston, there was, like, a bu you know, like, I don't know if you know, they're called DJ Bounce and Beats. They're like this little kind of rabbit-looking guy that bounces on a spring and makes noise, but there were so many kids that had those. We have actually, hang on a second. We have, I'm not kidding, probably 30 of these in the house because he loves this ball, and we had one and it broke, and we're like, "Oh my god, we need more of these." And so Haley posted on Facebook, like, if anybody has one of these used, and this is just an uplifting story about people too. Like if anybody has one of these used, we'd love to buy it. Leo really likes those. And then literally for like a month straight, like every time I walked in the door, there was someone had bought one and sent it to us or dropped it off, or
Oh, I
there
love
was one
that.
hanging in a bag on the gate. So we have so many of those around. But like he has this baby shark one he really likes now, and now we're gonna have to find a bunch of those. But I was just curious because it does seem like there are especially like lights and like
Yeah.
this one like makes this clicky sound when it turns around, so
Yeah, so Margo, I feel like she's still very young and she doesn't necessarily love anything, but she's getting to a point now where she's really interested. She loves lights. So that's one thing that they've always used in therapy
mm,
is lights because she will track those really well and she seems to be interested. She also loves beads. And that was the first
Yeah.
thing that our OT gave her just like a beaded necklace.
Yeah.
And
Like Mardi Gras beads.
uh,
she was actually that was the first time she actually used both her hands and was visually looking both senses at the same time. And so she likes that. And
I
then
I was gonna say, I think with the beads, like, I think that's been the thing that she's reacted to the most, like, I've gotten to the point now, I'll have her down on the ground, like, laying on her back, and I'll hold them over her, and, like, that's been the thing that I've noticed her move trying to move her hands the most is, like, moving them towards the beads, is, like, she locks onto those.
Mhm.
Yeah, here I was gonna say here recently, probably in the last month, she's gotten good at being able to roll over, and I was playing with some beads, and I put the beads down beside her to where she could see, but she couldn't reach them, and, like, it triggered her to roll, and, like, she did it
Towards
3
them.
or 4 times that I was like, "Okay," like, she's obviously trying to get to him. And I'd say the other thing is we have a little spinner. It's like almost like a fidget spinner type
mhm.
thing, and just putting that in front of her, like, our PT does it, and we do it whenever she's actually doing her sessions because 'cause she'll focus on that, so then she's not focusing so much on the exercise and she can actually get through the exercises.
Mhm.
But we'll put a couple of those down and spin them, and she'll just sit there and stare at them.
Yeah. And now she seems very interested in all the cause and effect toys that we
Yeah.
have gotten her. She seems to be really interested in those.
Yeah, we help her, like, with there's one where you push it down and it, like, spins something inside, and we will, like, guide her hands, and she'll push it down herself if we get her hands on
Yeah.
top of it. So
It's really
Mhm.
she's,
cool.
like,
She'll
figured
actually
that out.
push and release, which is
Yeah.
I feel like the release is like the hardest part, but she does both.
Yeah, and she'll sit there and do that for a little bit. I'd say the major thing was, like, the beads and that little spinner that
Mhm.
we ended up getting is, like, her big thing that she really likes, but, yeah, the other things that we're kind of getting her to interact with that involve spinning, she enjoys those too.
Yeah. Yeah, he likes those little they're like plastic fidget spinners with like a suction cup on the bottom, that's what you're talking about. Yeah, he likes those a lot too. There's something circling back to the communication thing, just something I wanted to mention. There's actually a MEF2C parent. Her name is Christy Johnson, and she is a professor at, I believe, Northeastern University. She was originally like went to school, was in a PhD program for astrophysics, had her son, he got diagnosed, things changed. So she went into kind of like this really broad multidisciplinary engineering program. And now what she's doing, her program is called Roscoe. We're working on getting her on the show. But her whole thing is like developing tools to be able to actually measure those communication means that you were talking about. Because like if you actually try to evaluate those in any sort of medical setting, like you can't actually explain to them. And, you know, if you look at it over time, with the tools that we have now, it doesn't look like anything's changed, but you guys know that things are changing. So, but that's a really interesting project that's being worked on by a F2C parent. So I just wanted to bring that up because I
That's
thought it's
awesome.
really cool.
Yeah.
So you said talked about the toys. You said the DMI was really helpful. Some of the other things. Are there any other therapies or interventions, anything like that in particular you can think of that have been super impactful for Margo?
Well, to be honest, that's all she's doing right now, just OT and PT.
I know this is one thing that you tend to bring up on the episodes, just because you talk about it with your son Leo. Just here recently, we've really kind of started introducing her to water.
Mhm.
Just seeing how she react to that, and she doesn't seem to have the kind of the same reaction that you've described with, like, Leo or, like, other parents have described with their kids, but I think it might just because it's kind of new, like, when she took baths, because she's so chill, like, we'd put her in the bath and she'd just kinda be chilling in the bath too, never really reacting to it, but it also, a lot of that was also during the time when she wasn't really reacting too much anyways, but here recently in the last couple weeks, you know, we've been going to some pools and stuff for our oldest daughter, and obviously for her too. And putting her in the water, we're seeing now she is recognizing, okay, this is a different sensation. Something's going on here. And like when you first put her in there, she has the initial reaction of like adverse reaction, throw her hands up. She's balled up. She's like, what's going on here? But I have noticed that as we sit there for a little bit, she does end up relaxing. She'll even bring her hands down enough to actually put them in the water, but she still isn't, I wouldn't necessarily say, like, interacting, like, she doesn't interact with the water. She's not, like, trying to move her hands in the water or anything, but she is willing to, like, kind of relax and sit there. But I also know I feel like she's pretty big on sensation, so, like, I think she gets to a point where she's like there's just too much sensation from the water to her, because then she'll get to a point where she checks out and she's like, "I'm done, I want out."
Mhm.
And, like this la I think it was last week, we actually went to the pool, and I had her she was in the water for probably what, like 30 minutes, 45 minutes or so. And then I was holding her and she was basically telling me, hey, I'm done. So I took her out and I sat down and kind of put her on my chest. And I mean, she was out for the rest of the time that we were there.
Yeah, she
So,
napped the rest of the day.
so it was like, it's definitely, I think those sensations are definitely something that like it was really working her,
Yeah.
mentally and stuff. And so I wanted trying to get into like working with water more, just seeing how she reacts, what it does for her and things, but haven't really dived into that or really anything else necessarily.
Yeah, Leo likes, like, water tables too, like, he likes being in the bath. Actually being in, like, a pool where it's, like, deep enough that he can't touch, he doesn't really like that much. That's
Yeah.
something we're working on right now, but he likes to interact with the water as opposed to necessar I mean, he does like to be in the water, like, in the tub, but, like, we have a dog bowl in our room for at night, we're sleeping, the dogs need a drink, and, like, you have to pick that up in the morning because if you don't and you hear him crawling towards the bedroom, it's like, oh, you gotta beat him there, you know what I mean? Or he'll and throw the
Yeah.
bowl all over the place, and but, like, yeah, like, water tables or every once in a while, just fill up the bathtub and let him play in it that way, so that might be a different way that she could engage with it that isn't so overwhelming,
Yeah.
and a
I
lot of
will
go ahead, sorry.
So I will say, so one thing also it just came to my mind that our OT also does is she has like a plastic bin that's full of beans, and what she has is have Margot basically like support herself on the edge of the bin and then just her hands hang down. And she used to not really want to touch anything, but now she's gotten to the point where her hands immediately go into the beans and she's just like opening, kind of like grabbing at the beans and stuff.
Yeah.
And she seems to like enjoy that sensation.
Hmm,
Mhm.
that's
Yeah.
interesting, yeah.
Starting to explore a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we've done, like, rice before, which he's, like, okay with, but I also feel like beans would be a lot cleaner than rice.
And that was one thing too. She started out with rice, but I think rice was just too small. So
Mhm.
then we went to beans, and that's when she actually started interacting a little bit more with it.
Mhm.
So
I'd definitely say I'd say it's cleaner. I think it's also because it's bigger. It's like almost like it I feel like it maybe it's not as much as like as an intense sensation because when you stick your hands in like rice or like say sand, it's like you get that full on sensation, like, completely covered, whereas with beans, it's like, there's spaces between the beans and, like, you can kinda feel that, and I think that's something that she enjoys. I don't think she likes necessarily the full on, sensation, yeah, immersion sensation to her hands, but she likes being able to touch stuff and have things in her hands, but just not completely. Because she's the same thing, it's like if you stick your finger out and touch your finger with her hand, she'll grab onto it, but if you put your hand around her hand, she doesn't want you touching it.
Hmm, interesting. Yeah. Yeah, and some of that I don't want this to sound like a bad thing because I don't mean it that way, but, like, some of that chillness that you're talking about, like, most of the families we've talked to, their Meth2C kids are very laid back, but also some of that may just be, like, her not
Oh,
perceiving
yeah.
oh,
things
One
as much as she
100%.
could. So, like, like Leo has I mean, he's still exceptionally well behaved, but, like, he's gotten a little bit of an attitude to him lately because he knows what's going on, you know what I mean? Like, the other night I think I've already told this story on the show, but whatever. We were putting him to bed, and he, like, will s he can stand up if you're supporting him with your hands, he'll hold your hands and, like, walk you to places, and it was
Mhm.
like, Haley rocks him in the recliner, and I go hide in the bedroom while he goes to sleep, and, like, I kept hearing toys, and he's, like, walking her to his bedroom and then walking her back and then like, "Oh, I wanna play with like, really trying to give her the runaround, you know what I mean? And if
Mhm.
if he was a normal toddler, you'd be like, "Good lord," you know what I mean? Like, "Just go to bed," but it was actually kind of fun to see him have that level of
yeah,
independence.
yeah.
So, I my point is just I think that's something that may come with time.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, her personality is definitely coming out more. Like, she started showing opinion when it comes to her therapy sessions. Like, when she's ready to be done,
Yeah,
like,
there's no changing her mind.
she
Mhm,
reacts to it, and like, she reacts in a way that is very clearly says, "Hey, like,
I'm
I'm
done.
done with this. I don't want to do this anymore."
Yeah,
And like, so it's not even just a like, oh, she's so tired that she just can't do it. It's oh no, I just don't want to do this anymore.
mhm.
yeah.
So I'm sure that time is coming. We definitely do not take for granted how relaxed and chill she's been here lately.
Yeah. So let's see here. We talked a little bit about you guys mentioned your pediatrician. Have there been any other sort of instances where you've needed to advocate on Margot's behalf for, whatever resources?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I'm not too much. Like, I think really our only issue ever was with the pediatrician because once we got, involved with the neurologist was really good about, like I said at the beginning, he was all about, I want to figure out what's going on. Like, there was no dismissal from him because he's like, we keep finding things, but it's not the answer. I want to find the answer. So he's like, we're going to keep looking.
Mhm,
And I mean, he was the one, but I think one of the greatest, I think the biggest, what's the word? I guess, accolade I can give to him is, like, pretty much right after we got the diagnosis and we were on a call with him, we were talking to him, he straight up told us, he's like, go find groups on social media, go find communities, like, they're gonna be the ones that have the answers that you're looking for, I'm not gonna have it, and I thought that was such a big thing because he was basically like, "Man, like, I don't know what is up with this, I'm gonna try and find out everything I can to help you out, but this is where you really need to go and look," and,
Yeah.
having, that kind of guidance and support instead of saying, like, all right, this is what you're gonna do, and you just have to take my word for it.
And I mean, I know too that, again, like our diagnosis is still so recent and she's still a baby, I
Mhm.
guess taller now, but everything we haven't really had much experience in trying to
Yeah.
figure out, okay, we need more of this, more of that. I know it's coming, but our neurologist and we have a genetic counselor too, and they both spoke with us and they were like, listen, we have never heard of this before. We have no experience. So, they even referred us to couple geneticists here in Georgia. We actually have an appointment with one, but it's not until 2027. We know that that's coming and we're going to have to advocate for her and,
Yeah.
try and find the best care that we can for her. I don't even want to go there yet, but I know that it's coming, when she starts school age and all of that. I know that that's going to be
Mhm.
another thing that we're going to have to figure out and, but at the point we're at right now, I feel like we're good. We're solid with her PT, her OT, and we have
Mhm.
a great pediatrician and her care team overall is just great and they're working with us and teaching us too how to best help her.
Yeah, that's all really good. What was I so, one thing I would say to you guys is, like and to our audience in general is, like, when I would close the loop with, like, your neurologist and your geneticist like, when you find these things, whatever information you find out, like, I would send that back to them, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? Because then whenever there's like, email them and say, "Here are the foundations that I found, blah, blah," because, like, when our
Mm,
geneticist gave us our diagnosis, he found one foundation he did find the Facebook group, which was basically the whole thing, you know what I mean? But, he found one foundation which was based out of Spain, which
Mhm.
they're a really good foundation, they had good information. So, obviously this is super rare right now, but eventually it may not be, and so,
mhm.
uh, that helps whoever comes next, and most of the time, the doctors wanna learn about the things like that.
Yeah.
Um, and also, that approach by the doctors is so great because, like, if you listen to the people who had the doctors tell them, like, "This is the clinical data on MEP2C haploinsufficiency syndrome," it's like, "Your kid will probably never walk, never talk, never blah, 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 blah,"
Mhm.
and it's like, it's such a bleak
Yeah.
outcome on things that we don't really know that much about, like, even let's say that was completely true, which I don't necessarily think it is. The people who have been through that are so much more capable and able to deliver that news in a way that you're ready
Yeah,
to process than some guy in an office. So, I think that's definitely the correct attitude for them to take.
for sure.
How has it's Roma, right? Her sister? How has Roma been through all this? What's it been like for her?
Well, I don't think we haven't really sat down with her to explain because she's still so young.
Mhm.
But Roma does interact with her sister. They actually share a room. And she very much
Yeah.
she
I would say, like, as of right now, she kinda treats her, just like a typical younger sibling. Like, when she is wanting to go to sleep and Margot's making noises, she's getting frustrated because she's like, "She's keeping me up, she's crying," and it's just
Mhm.
like, well, she's a baby, that's what she does. But then also, like, then on the flip side, it's like she does something cute and Roma's like, "She's so cute," and, like, wanting to interact with her. And I will say Roma was, like, for the first probably 6 months, like, Roma kind and I don't think it was, like, out of spite or anything like that, but Roma just kind of didn't even, like, acknowledge her or, like, act like she existed, and I
yeah.
think it was just because
Margo also never
yeah, Margo never like, Margo was just kinda chilling, and so it was almost like Roma could have just saw her as, like, a baby doll or something because
Mhm.
that she was doing the exact same thing that baby dolls were doing, just laying there and being quiet. So now that Margo has, like, been making noise and more interactive and really coming alive, I guess you could say,
Yeah.
like, Roma has been responding to that too and
Mhm.
interacting with her, like, when we bring Margo out after her nap, Roma's like, "There's Margo," and she gets all excited, and she'll talk to her, yeah, and I think the biggest thing is, like Camilla was saying, like, we haven't really sat down with her and talked to her because it's like, how do you really explain this to a four-year-old?
Sure, yeah.
Because I know I've had conversations in my own head about, like, how I would present this to her, and I'm just like, how do I want like, how do you present it to where she understands? Like, because as of right now, the things that Rome would understand is like, "Okay, you're either healthy or you're sick," and it's like,
Mhm.
well,
She's not
it's
sick.
not a sickness, like,
Yeah.
it's kind of hard to explain that, so
Yeah, the approach I've taken is, if Roma asks about Margot in any way, I'd be like, well, she's learning to do this. You
yeah.
have to try and help her. It's just, and I think honestly, that's the approach I would also take even if Margo didn't have this diagnosis. So right now, I don't feel like we need to go into detail at all with her, and I just very much take that approach. And it's just a normal thing. We're just helping baby sister every day. She comes with us, and we go to see baby sister's doctors because she needs to do her exercises.
Yep.
And that's the way she understands it. And she knows that Margo's working and that she's learning things. And if Margo is upset, I'm just like, well, she's learning, she's trying to figure out what she needs. So
Yeah, I'll say so. Like, we take Roma with us to Margot's appointments, and while we're there, there's other therapists that are working with like other kids that have, other needs, things along those lines. And they actually use Roma as like a peer to like interact with the other kids. And like Roma does like a great job with it. Like, she interacts with him with, the other kids, plays with them, or and there's some kids that like they don't want to have that social interaction or things like that. And like Roma has this intuition to like know, all right, like I'll talk to you, but like I'm not going to interact with you. Or you want to play this, but you don't want to necessarily play with me. Okay, I'll just play, beside you, or being able to do those things. And I think she can apply that to Margot also. And it's the same thing where like if one of those kids does something that Roma doesn't like, she'll come up to us and she'll like tell us, and we're like, well, they're learning, they're having to figure this out. Can you help them learn? And she's like, okay, and like she goes in and she takes over like being a little doctor basically. She's like, she'll start trying to explain things to them. Like if the kid gets sad or something, she'll try and comfort them.
And seeing this side of Roma too has been great because it gives me a little bit of comfort to know that, I already know that she will watch out for her little sisters.
She's going to be a huge advocate for Margot.
Yeah,
Sure.
and so that's really reassuring. And Roma is also a great listener. And even though she's 4, she understands. And so the things that we teach her about Margot or tell her, or if we ever need help, she is always willing to do that and help. And so I think that's going to be great. She's going to be a great, well, she already is a great big sister, but I think as she learns to understand Margot's diagnosis, I think she's going to be also a great help.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like you can say, like, the way that we kind of work with Roma to explain Margo is, like, I feel like it's, like, so applicable even to just, like, adults, It's, like, because of the fact that there's so many unknowns with MEF2C and, like, how they develop and things like that, it's, like, I feel like you can sincerely say, like, they're learning. They're still trying to figure things out, and it's like, if you ever not that we've ever run into this situation yet, but you run into a situation where you're out in public and adults having an issue, you'd be like, listen, they're learning. It's like
With
they're
you in the
learning,
exact
and
same
you
frame, yep.
can be an advocate and you can help them learn, or you cannot, and you can just go on your way or something.
Mhm.
But I think it's so applicable to just be like, just being able to look at this diagnosis not as like an ant, but like, hey, it's just they're just going to be learning a different way. They got to figure out life a different way, and we just help them to do that.
Mhm. Yeah, and, I hesitate to frame, like, MEF2C as good, but there are certainly good opportunities that come out of it,
Mhm.
and, it's an incredible opportunity for Roma to build her character at such an early age.
Absolutely.
And help learn responsibility. And also, it's great that the care team is sort of integrating her into that and giving her that sense of ownership because I can see how it would be really easy to be resentful if you were a child and you had to go to therapy for your sibling every day of the week. So, that's all really awesome. I'm really, really glad that she has had those experiences. And, as Margot gets older, there are going to be times where people say things to Margot about Margot that don't understand, and you can have the same answer. You can say, "Well, they're still learning. They just didn't understand." And, Susan talked about that with us too, like, sometimes you have to educate people, sometimes it's a little more spirited than other times, but at the end of the day, you're still just educating people. So,
Mhm.
I think that's a really good way to frame it. So, what do you think have been the hardest parts about being Margot's parents?
That's a loaded question.
Or this whole part not necessarily about being Margot's, but just this whole experience, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to necessarily be directly related to her.
I think the hardest part for me is thinking of the future just the uncertainty and not knowing what's coming next, I think is big. I think, so many things that I took for granted, having Roma being a normal, quote unquote, normal child, right? And not having that with Margo, I think in a way I have learned to really, really appreciate and celebrate the inch stones rather than the milestones, which I would have never even like thought of that concept before Margo. So that is something good, I guess, in a way that has come out that I'm learning to appreciate and celebrate the little things. But at the same time, taking her to PT and OT, as much as I cheer for her and I celebrate all these things, my heart also kind of breaks a little bit because I know that she's struggling. She's
Mhm.
trying hard, and I think that's a hard thing as a parent to accept and to understand that's just how it needs to happen. So that's one thing that's really hard for me. And then just like again, like I said before, just I try not to go there too often because so many uncertainties, so many unknowns for the future that we don't know what that's gonna look like for Margot. Like even from kid to kid with the same diagnoses, it can be completely different. So I think that's a hard thing. Yeah, like I said, I don't even like to go there because it's hard. It's too hard to accept or even like think about. So
Yeah, I think one thing for me, I feel like I've always been really good about just kind of keeping things day to day. So, like, I don't necessarily think about the future, or maybe I just don't allow myself to think about the future. But I think the hard thing for me is, is comparison. Just because, like I said, so I have a brother who he had a baby 2 weeks before we had Margot. And yeah, I hope if my brother listens to this, he doesn't feel bad about this in any way or whatever. But like seeing, we'll send photos of Margot and then, they'll send photos of their kid. Everyone starts sending photos in the group chat. And it's just like, here we are sending a photo of Margot saying, oh, look, like she's holding onto something. And he's sending a photo of his kid walking around and
running,
it's running or
it's
something.
hard.
And it's hard to look at that and be like, that am I gonna be able to get to that point, and having that concern, and just the comparison of the fact that this is a struggle that they don't have to deal with, this is something like, they get to be able to experience children as we would expect to be, whereas with us, it's, every single day, it's a little bit different every single day, it's like, is it gonna be the same? Is something gonna be different? Where are we going to be at? And I think that was just, like, I've always loved how relaxed and everything that Margo was. I mean, when she was first born, I actually used that as opportunity to transition in jobs, and so I took a month off, and I spent a month, like, every single day just with Margo, and it was the greatest thing ever, but, then I did get to a point where I was, like, getting excited, like, "Oh, when is she gonna start learning to, like, roll over? When is she gonna start learning to crawl?" Start imagining kind of these milestones, and then just kind of, like, then she's missing them and she's not hitting them, and like what's going on, is there something wrong? And it's just like, and then like I said, and then you're seeing the other kids, hitting those milestones and going beyond, and you're just like, okay, what is really happening now? And really start kind of worrying. And now that we know what's going on, and now that we know why, it makes it a little bit easier knowing, okay, like all gauges out the window. There's no way, like, we're not even going to worry about milestones anymore. It's like Camilla was saying, we're just going to worry about what is she doing right now, and how has she been better from like a week ago, or even a day ago. But it's still hard to be like, okay, but like I want her to be here because I want to be able to experience that part of childhood now, and she's not going to be there in anytime soon. And it's just hard to like not kind of, I guess, kind of not definitely not resent that, but just like be disappointed, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, you have to process that everything that you thought that parenthood would be and everything that you thought that your
Mhm.
child's childhood would be is not the case. Like, I struggle with the comparison stuff not because, like, my parenthood experience is gonna be different because I grew up around special needs stuff and, like, this was obviously wasn't what I was expecting, but I'm not
Mhm.
unfamiliar with it, and I can handle it. But I think about the experiences that I had as a child that Leo's not gonna be able to have,
Yeah.
and that's really tough.
It is.
But, yeah, you just have to give yourself time to process that it's just
Mhm.
not going to be what you thought it was, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's just different.
It's definitely a mourning process in some way. So we were actually at church a couple weeks ago, and it was the same thing. I have a friend who had a baby literally like a month before um, I had Margot, and it's the same thing. She's walking around, she's running, she is doing all these things, and there I was just holding Margot because she couldn't do any more than that. But yeah. So
Yeah, and it's kind of, I mean, not to wallow in this here, but it's isolating too, because like, I work
yeah,
with people who have kids around the same age as Leo, and then, like, they're asking me questions about Leo, and other people are asking me questions about Leo, it's like, I don't even know how to explain to you,
yeah.
you know what I mean? How to start.
How deep do I go? How much of this do I
Right,
explain?
yes, uh-huh.
Yeah, it's hard.
So, to kind of flip that on its head, what things do you think what have been the most positive things that have come out of this?
I was gonna s I think kind of in a sense, it's almost kinda the same thing, being able to live day by day. I've been able to become appreciative of just any little thing. I mean, even just the fact that, like, I go from, when I come in the morning to get Margot, she, is just awake and whatever, and then I come in and she reacts to me coming in. I'm like, "That's a huge win. That's a big thing." And, like, it's something I talk about every single day. Like, I don't know how many times we go to our therapist and we're like, "Guess what she did today?" And it's literally like she moved her hand an inch or something towards something, and we're like, "She did this today," and they get just as excited too, and they're like, "Oh, that's awesome," and like, you would have thought we just told them that she just won a marathon or something, the way we talk about it, and I think it's just being able to, like this has helped me be able to appreciate all those little things and just being able to just, like, recognize, "Hey, we're just in this moment, what we're doing right now is the best that we can do, and that's all that we need to do."
Yeah, I mean, and that, chill attitude that you talk about kind of highlights that too, because there's so many things, like, I'll take Leo on runs in his stroller, and, like, he has the best time just riding
Mhm.
around, and like, the other day, it's like this big, it's actually a bike trailer that has a jogging wheel you can put in the front, but it's got this sunshade that goes down over. And I put him in there the other day, and I was like, "I don't need to strap him in." Well, where I'm running, and his head goes out from under the sun cover, and it's like got the mermaid on the front of an old wooden ship or something, like, his face is out over the wheel, you know what I mean? So just and he just loves to watch that wheel, so just learning to
Mhm.
appreciate things the way they do is
Yeah,
really valuable.
yeah. I think
Go ahead.
sorry. I was
No, go
just gonna
ahead.
say, just going off of what Jed was saying, just celebrating the little things. I think again, like I don't think I would have even noticed or appreciated this until now because in a way we've been forced to, right? But I think also just trying to flip the script and just take it as an opportunity to really, this helps me learn and connect and understand my child on a deeper level. Because thinking back to Roma, some of these things again we just took for granted. Of course, not to say that I don't know my Roma. Of course I do, but I think it's a completely different experience and it's a completely different connection, and it might be deeper in ways that it wasn't with Roma, and it's best, so on and so forth. It might have been deeper. You know what I'm saying? So it's just I think definitely a different experience, but just like learning to appreciate those little things and those inch tones. It's sometimes a good perspective to have
Yeah.
still.
I was gonna say, I think also it's helped us be able to, like, come to understand Roma even more. 'Cause it's just like, when we were talking to the therapist about how Margot kind of, like, receives sensation, like, vestibular thing and everything, and it's like and they're talking just like, yeah, like Roma, they point out she's like, she needs a lot of proprioceptive interaction and stuff, and it's just like being able to, like, learn those things and being like, looking at Roma almost in the sense of how we look at Margot and be like, "Okay, like, she's not just a kid that just wants to play with toys or watch a show or whatever." It's like, there's deeper things to that. Like she goes
Yeah,
deeper than that, and we're learning to like look at those needs for her too and be able to like address that too and understand.
It's
And
definitely a different lens.
yeah, and so it's like, from the first her first 3 years as, as she grew up and how we interacted with her to how we've interacted with her and, like, here in this last year is, like, been a big difference too, so it's helped us really, like, appreciate children for being more than just children, but being actual like, realizing, "Hey, these are actual human beings that have their own completely own lives and stuff," and
Mhm.
realizing.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely can agree with that, and, going off what you said, Camilla, like, not only is it an opportunity with your kid for this different thing, but it's also brings you this part of this community, and, like, we already know that MCHS is very underdiagnosed,
Mhm.
and, like, I think it was only discovered in I don't know if the gene
2010,
was
I believe.
discovered in 2008 or the disorder itself was discovered in 2008. I'm actually trying to figure we're working on getting Dr. Lipton on the podcast, and he can iron that out for himself
Yeah.
because it depends on where you look, but point being is, like, we're in the infancy of this right now, and,
Mhm.
Yeah.
like, each individual family has the opportunity to make a huge impact. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So, you can really make a difference in other people's lives just by, sharing your data and talking to people and doing things like this that'll really help people down the road.
Yeah.
And there's a this is gonna sound like a really silly reference. Does either of your kids watch Bluey at all?
Yeah.
We watch
Yeah.
Bluey
So yeah.
without our kids even.
So there's an episode called Curry Quest, and it starts out with Chili explaining to Bingo what a quest is. And I can't remember the exact line, but she says, the hero never actually wants to go on the quest. So, like, this is in some sense for each of us a call to some sort of purpose that maybe we didn't necessarily sign up for
Mhm.
or even want, but now we have an opportunity to do something with. So I think it's important to keep that in mind. So what are your hopes for Margot's future and for sort of the MCHS community as a whole?
I think for Margo is just, that we just see continuous progress. I'm not gonna try and put any kind of milestone on it. Like, there's obviously, like, the goals, like therapist goals. We want to be able to get her to where she, is, here soon that she's sitting up. Maybe we can get it to where she's in quadruped. Really optimistic maybe that we can get her crawling here, in the very, very, very foreseeable future. But, like, obviously not putting a milestone, but realistically, just that she keeps progressing, that she's able to keep growing, keep being able to experience life and, like, develop more, and whatever challenges come, that she's able to kind of work through that. We're able to figure out ways to do that. I think as a whole, like, as far as, like, just the community in general and kind of, like, the process of this disorder is just the fact, like, being able to just continue having better understanding of. I mean, I know this week I have been doing, like, a deep dive into, like, looking into the chromosome details of MEF2C, like, all these things just because 'cause I'm like, I whatever limited knowledge I gained from my degree in my 2 genetics classes, I wanna, like, use that to the full extent, to understand this as much as possible, and I'm like, I know if I'm doing that and I'm able to kinda not figure out things, but at least understand for myself, I'm like, "Okay, there's some way smarter people who are getting paid to do this that are really, like, digging deep into it and just hoping that, they can get the information they need and get the resources they need to be able to keep moving forward and be able to make those discoveries that are needed to be able to figure it
Yeah.
out.
And just like you're saying too, I mean, the kids that are diagnosed with this right now, they're all still in their infancy, right? Very, very young. And so it's just
The majority, not
the
there's
majority.
Yeah,
Yes,
majority,
absolutely,
majority.
for sure.
And well, I mean, even if they're not in their infancy, they're in their infancy of understanding
yes.
specifically what is going on.
Yes, yes. Thank you for clarifying. So yes, but so I'm just hopeful that, here in 10 years, we'll have more answers, we'll have a treatment, and yeah, that's just my hope.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's great. So is there anything else you'd like to say, like, share with the listeners or anything like that?
I just think it's important, again, going back to advocating for your kid. I think if you have a question, if you're not happy, satisfied with the answer, and you feel like you need a second opinion, really, really push for that, whether they want you to or not. I think that's huge. I'm very grateful that we were able to start early intervention for Margot. I don't know where this is going to lead for her, but I think regardless of that, early intervention is so important. And I just hope that anybody else listening out there can, if anything, they can take that away from this episode, that they really do need to, advocate for a kid, and just
Mm.
it looks like it might not be easy, I don't think, but yeah, I mean, there's nothing I wouldn't do for my Margot, so I will knock all the doors, and, I think that's just what every parent out there feels the same way too. So,
I I was gonna say, I think one thing just from coming from the perspective of us being so new to this, because I feel like a lot of the people that you've interviewed, they got their diagnosis, they've known for it for a little bit, already kind of started working through it. I feel like it's so new to us, and just if there's anyone else that listens to this who, are just like us, where they get the diagnosis, they find resources, they find this podcast like a month after they get the diagnosis. Some just, the fact that like there's hope. Like this is not a final end type thing. Like this is really just the beginning. And I think from the very beginning, from the moment that we realized something was going on with Margot, I've never had a feeling of despair. I've always had a feeling of hope. I've always had a feeling that whatever is going to happen, whatever's going on, we're going to figure it out, and we're going to make it happen. And I just want anyone listening to be able to have that feeling too, to know that, hey, like it's gonna be tough, but, like, you've got this, 'cause I don't know what I'm doing. We just started out with this, but, already we've been getting so many resources, we've been getting so much help, so it's like, if we can get this just starting off, like, I know it's just gonna continue to get better as we keep moving. That would be the big thing I wanna kind of, like, put out there, is just don't lose hope. Whether you're at the beginning, you've been going at it for, 5 years, or whatever the situation is, just, like, don't lose hope, just keep moving forward, because it will just keep getting better.
Yeah, I agree completely. Alrighty. Well, thank you guys so much for your time and sharing your story. We are going to be, after this episode drops, next episode after that will be with Margot's therapists. So we'll talk about kind of the clinical side of Margot's story. And if anybody wants to get in contact with us, they can find the MEF2C cast on Facebook or email us at mef2cast@gmail.com. Thank you, everybody.
thank you.